women tend to overvalue themselves while men tend to undervalue themselves.
As men, when we grow up, we have friends that, tease us and bully us. Like, oh man, your nose is big as hell, like they tell us these things that, to women it might sound demeaning, but to us, they're giving us a reality check. So from a young age, we grew up getting reality checks constantly in a joking manner. Your friends are going to joke with you and tease you. And I think on the other hand, women, they get more praises as they grow up. So they grow up all this time through, teenage years into adulthood. And then you wonder now when somebody actually tell you like, hey, your nose is kind of big. And you're like, I haven't been told that my whole life.
Do you think that men tend to insult each other and not mean it, while women tend to compliment each other and not mean it?
100%.
A significant issue with modern relationships, particularly in the realm of dating, is the lack of attention given to men's expressed desires. This disregard is leading many men to face a lonely existence. One would expect that since women desire companionship with men who serve as gatekeepers to relationships, they would strive to fulfill men's wants in order to achieve their own desires. However, this is not the case. Women often exhibit selfishness, egotism, and excessive pride, refusing to make any effort to please men. Instead, they choose to heed the advice of their female peers and engage in self-destructive behaviors. Men who possess experience in dealing with women understand that the strategies employed to initially attract them differ from those required to maintain a long-term connection or enter into a marital union. Men who aim to sustain relationships comprehend the importance of consistently providing resources, protection, and meeting the majority of their partner's desires. Strangely enough, even if these efforts are made, the women they are involved with tend to take these gestures for granted, grow bored, and seek fulfillment outside of the relationship. The actions necessary to initially win a woman's affection and establish a connection are not the same as those necessary to sustain it. Therefore, regardless of a man's endeavors, he finds himself in a precarious situation. He is damned if he complies with women's expectations and damned if he doesn't. When dealing with women, the actions required to attract a woman are not sufficient to maintain her interest. Unless a man's girlfriend or wife possesses a deep understanding of herself and chooses to remain committed without attempting to have it all, the relationship will inevitably deteriorate. This is because, at some point, she will no longer find happiness in the partnership. On the flip side, women can easily escape the responsibility of fulfilling men's desires and only make minimal efforts if they feel like it. If you doubt this, just ask some husbands and boyfriends who are currently experiencing dissatisfaction in their relationships. They are compelled to resort to platforms like OnlyFans to indulge in pornography and purchase sex toys because they are not receiving any intimate affection from their ungrateful partners who are merely leeches at home, consuming oxygen. There are men who work grueling 12-hour shifts, enduring disrespect from their superiors and clients, and compromising their health to provide for their women. Yet, they can't even come home to a warm, home-cooked meal and satisfying intimacy before bed because their wives are too preoccupied with mindlessly scrolling through social media platforms. Modern women have no regard for men or their desires. Their sole focus is on what they can gain and extract from men to elevate themselves and effortlessly move on to the next potential partner. Their primary objective when interacting with men is to exploit the relationship for personal gain. They never prioritize reciprocating or placing men's needs and wants ahead of their own, even after reaping the benefits of the relationship. Can you really blame men for distancing themselves from such relationships when they are consistently taken advantage of and used as mere stepping stones for women's upgrades? To be fair, most of the things men desire from women do not negatively impact them or pose any harm to their well-being. Take cooking, for example. It is widely known that most men would prefer women to primarily take on the task of preparing meals at home while they work to provide for the family. So tell me, how can a woman view cooking nutritious meals for the family as something negative when it is crucial for their own longevity and well-being? Yet they resist doing it simply because the man would benefit from it, displaying a reluctance to go out of their way to bring happiness to men. Apparently, in their distorted worldview, Performing actions that benefit men is seen as perpetuating the patriarchy, which is deemed unacceptable in 2023. However, on the other hand, men are still expected to be a source of financial support and mere tools to benefit women. It's utterly nonsensical. These women have no problem cooking for themselves, their children, their pets, or other women. But when it comes to men, they flat out refuse to do it, just because it would involve catering to a man and adhering to traditional gender roles. That's how toxic these individuals are. I've lived long enough and dated enough women with the same mindset to witness that this is a prevalent perspective among many of them. These attitudes are deeply ingrained, and there's no changing the minds of these women. In fact, some men have wives at home, yet they still have to hire a maid or meal prepper just to have a home-cooked meal. It's incredibly disheartening. I share this example to illustrate that women in the Western world are unwilling to perform acts of service for men once they start earning their own money and become influenced by womanist ideology. Some women will not cook for their partners under any circumstances, and most will insist on splitting cooking duties equally. Cooking is just one example. We can delve further into other tasks such as laundry, dishes, diaper changing, and house cleaning, all of which are traditionally considered the woman's responsibility. Modern women no longer wish to take charge of these tasks due to current societal agendas. This phenomenon is primarily prevalent in the Western world. In contrast, if you visit countries in Southeast Asia, women there willingly wash, cook, and clean for their men because it is deeply ingrained in their culture and taught to them by their parents. It's a norm for those women. However, in the West, the situation is different. The culture is lacking, and many women lack proper upbringing due to the absence of fathers in many households. It's not surprising why Western women treat men poorly. Many of the dating issues we face today stem from the home environment, where older women, such as grandmothers, aunts, female cousins, and mothers, advise young girls not to go above and beyond for men and not to treat men well. I'm certain I'm not the only one who has heard women in their family advising younger women to view men as mere providers and focus solely on their careers. If you're wondering where it all began, it probably originated within the home or from the external influences of our decaying society. There is a glimmer of hope for men, our one saving grace. In recent times, more and more men have given up on dating and relationships, a phenomenon unprecedented in world history. Numerous men have reached their limit, tired of being taken advantage of by women, treated as expendable, and used as mere sources of financial support. They have grown disillusioned with the biased family court system. It has reached a point where they have completely disengaged from dating and have no intentions of returning to the status quo. Women didn't anticipate men giving up on relationships because they assumed that we were foolish and desperate enough to tolerate anything. However, they received a harsh reality check when they realized that men were no longer tolerating their nonsense. The men they thought would always be there, waiting for them to tire of their promiscuous ways, were nowhere to be found. This is why there are numerous videos and comments on social media where women express frustration over men's reluctance to commit. Furthermore, predictions suggest that by 2030, 45% of women in America will be both childless and single. So if anyone believes that men aren't sick and tired of modern women, they have another thing coming. If women genuinely listened to men and took our concerns seriously instead of heeding the advice of bitter single women, I guarantee that many of them wouldn't struggle to find a partner willing to marry them. Even now, if most modern women in the West treated men with kindness and stopped weaponizing the courts against them, we would witness more marriages, more children, and an overall improvement in society. I'm not suggesting that these changes will happen overnight, but if women were less selfish and listened to men, that day could arrive. Unfortunately, it's unlikely to happen anytime soon. Even though modern women see men shying away from commitments, they remain resistant to change. They aren't making any effort to change and cater to what men want. So, for all the hopeful strategists out there seeking a good woman, I want you all to realize that women today are actively choosing to do everything except treat men with respect, embrace traditional values, let go of government support, and reform the family court system. They are not oblivious to the fact that more and more men are leaving them to fend for themselves in retirement, yet they have no intention of appeasing men. This tells me that they simply do not care about men, and that's the harsh reality. So, I want you guys to understand that they only care about money. They really don't care about most of us. If modern women genuinely cared about men, the family court laws would have been changed long ago. Fathers wouldn't be pushed out of their children's lives, and they would listen to our wants and needs. The fact that things have only gotten worse tells you everything you need to know. Women are who they are, and we should know what to expect from them. Nothing I'm saying is new, but it's you guys who need to accept this reality and take action. If you can't change the laws or the women, you can change the laws in your own mind and how you interact with them. That's the bottom line. You can choose to hold on to hope and continue marrying the modern women, hoping to avoid divorce and being taken advantage of, or you can make a complete turnaround and avoid committing to them at all costs. The choice is yours.